We're going to switch it up today. Going on to DraftKings, ended up with the first overall pick. That's an easy Jamar Chase, but this is a pretty, not too high entry feed draft. I'm curious just to see. I have a buddy who's been doing all DraftKings this summer. No underdog. This late into the season, it's not like I'm going to be maxing. Well, off season, I guess. This late into the off season, it's not going to be like me trying to max out, get heavy entries into DraftKings. But I am curious just to see how ADP differs. If the draft experience feels better. I do honestly like that the roster depth does go a little bit deeper. I feel like that is, if you have players you like deep that you don't think a lot of people do, that's your opportunity cost right there. So yeah, start off with Jamar. Very easy for me. If you know me by now, you know I do like running Jamar into Lamar. I think it has some value, but this is basically going to be BBM, very 17 focused, so I do prefer that Jamar Lamar in Sprint on Underdog. On DK, you're only going to be getting like tournament formats, nothing too different like the Eliminator or Marathon like you get on Underdog. But if tournaments are all you're interested in, consider DraftKings. See you at the next pick. Hopefully we get something juicy. Opportunity for a Cincy double with Higgins just went off the board. We could go Bucky maybe. McConkey, I have heard good reason, like Slater injury, McConkey's own, I believe he has his own injury as well. Completely different. I think we do keep it simple. Let's take McBride at the first pick while we mull over our options for this second one. Theoretically, you could go with a Cardinals double into Kyler at 96 would honestly work well. So, given that this is a low entry fee, what the fuck? Okay. Given that this is a low entry fee scratch off ticket, I'm just gonna hyper stack into a Cincy Arizona matchup. We'll aim for Kyler later. Get some. Hopefully, we're gonna need some running back support at these later picks, admittedly, but nothing I'm gonna stress over just yet. Hopefully, we can get Judkins news just dropped today that he won't be charged. I don't think he's officially signed yet, so that still has to get done. But positive news on a front for a player that I have been saying I do see the value in. Admittedly, I was championing that value when he was at like 190, 110. And because of the shares I got of him at that stage, I started getting a little bit more scared off even as he dipped further down. But if you can get him before he rises back up, especially in the 120s, 130s, that's an easy pick all day for me. We'll throw him up here later. I have no idea what is how fast people will adjust, where people expect to take him. I'm greedy, so I'll probably take him at like 130. I'm not gonna push higher than that. I want to get his best ADP value as I can while it lasts. As he keeps scooting further and further up ADP boards, just take him where he is for now. I'm gonna try and be a little bit greedy. I will admit, I know you've already seen it. This fucking scroll on DK draft is already pissing me off. If Worthy was there, we'd maybe go him Sutton. I think we play it smart and safe. Another small mini. I don't love Alvin Kamara, especially with his habit to, since his heyday, fall off later into the year. But I think if we can go Kyler into Cam Ward later, I'll feel fairly comfortable about those two quarterbacks. If Kyler doesn't play well this season, we're dead already having his two, target hogs. So we'll need Kyler to perform heavy either way. Ridley and Cam Ward, I'm fairly positive about Cam Ward in general. I think he's a decent ADP value. I do think Calvin Ridley's a little bit underappreciated. I think people expected maybe too much out of him when he first went to Jacksonville. He's a good wide receiver. He's a wide receiver one for the team and should be getting a hefty target share this year. I still love Pickens. Reality situation, it's going to be harder to get into Washington this late. We still need a lot more running back support. Given that we did not get DK, I'm in no rush to take Jerry Jeudy there. We're definitely just going to be looking at running back value. Build out the wide receiver room a little bit more. And then the next of our two back-to-backs will be taking Kyler, hopefully. Seeing Burrow fall a bit here is interesting. I was going to say, Rashee Rice at 72, I'll still do it, man. Like, news that he won't be suspended until midseason is pretty bad. It's not very good for him. You would kind of prefer the initial 3-game suspension and then have him fresh through the middle of the year. Middle of the year is also tough just with bye weeks. You're losing out on another man on suspension middle of the year. It's pretty tough. But at 72, regardless, like if he plays enough games, he can give you value, and if you advance, you then have fucking Rashee Rice for your tournament specs. So that's really what it comes down to in my eyes. Looking at the top of this board, I don't want Debo. Pollard would be fine. Myers is tempting. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think we need Odunze in this lineup. We'll take Pollard. We're already stacking into Tennessee. That's fine. Aaron Jones or Isaiah Pacheco? I think that's a pretty easy choice to me, even though I didn't queue him up. I think I just prefer Pacheco. Scopes out to be a better offense if he does take over the backfield. Buku Bucks. Both by week 10. Not ideal, but we'll live. And then we can work on our wide receivers as we get into here deeper. I think in a PPR format, there's a lot more late wide receivers that can really give you the juice. Especially, like, looking at this ADP, like, Jaden Reed feels so much better to me at 97. Even with the injury, he should be fine, from what I've read. Not too serious. Questionable whether he's there for week 1, but it shouldn't be anything too long-term post that week 1 absence. At least that's what early reports say. But yeah, Jaden Reed in a PPR league feels a lot better to me than a half-point PPR because he's a target demon. Very up and down. That's what makes him so much better in best ball than like your home league. But if Jaden Reed figures it out this year, he could definitely be a home league wrecker as well. I hate that this fucking draft room scrolls. It's so dumb. It's pissing me off more and more. Jordan Mason at this pick is a fucking steal. Even though I want to take Judkins later, I'm not passing up on that opportunity, and then we kind of have to take Kyler. So we're going to be a little RB heavy. We can sit at 5 running backs and be fine. We're definitely going to need some late wide receiver value, though. But I'm not passing up on Jordan Mason at pick 90, whatever. And we get to clean up our double there, guarantee Kyler. Feels pretty good, and yeah, we're flying a little too close to the sun wide receiver wise. There's only 3 through round 9. That's an ugly endeavor, but hopefully I can land this plan for you guys. Show you that. Get a little wonky on DK sometimes. Damn. I wanted Godwin at 120 pretty bad. Given the extra 2 roster spots, I think it gives you a little bit of leeway to work into Godwin and Ayuk more. Godwin especially at 120. I know he's probably going to start off on the pup this year, but 120 justifies it all to me. We'll go Mooney at the first one. The second pick is a little up in the air. I'm probably forced to just go Burden. Purdy doesn't play into anything for us. Neither does Caleb, considering I'm going to be taking Mooney. Yeah, we can probably just safely go Burden. Hopefully tempt people with quarterback and tight end values so we can pick up another wide receiver in addition to Cam Ward at the next pick. If not, we can easily take Judkins too. I'll be curious to see who takes him where. I don't know why Brock Purdy's still on the board. I will snap take him if he's there. All right, he's gone. I was going to say, I don't think I can afford to go Purdy Ayuk. It sure as shit was tempting. I still think, even though the ADP value is so apparent with quarterbacks ahead of him, with no outlet for McCarthy or Love, both in terms of game stacks or team stacks, I can't justify taking them in this smaller entry, just fucking ceiling, maxing kind of entry. Given that, though, I do think we will take Judkins. We will be more than set at running back, maybe a little too much so, given the kind of angle we've put ourselves behind at wide receiver. Ayuk is very tempting, but I'm going to take the guy who maybe can play the full season and be, RB1 on his team. Damn, that is tough to see Dobbs, Tillman, and Tua go off the board here. I think Young is a fine pick. It's an ADP value. I do like Stafford a fair bit. Carolina, we aren't really playing into Seattle much, but we can find ways to justify it. Yeah, just take the fucking highest ADP quarterback. Let's get a third. And then out of these in a PPR league, I'm just going to prefer Wandell. Not only do I think he got a QB upgrade this year, he's been peppered with targets the past couple years. Even if Jackson Dart comes in, you figure the low A dot, guy is going to still get his fair share of targets. Really hoping we can get both Okonkwo and Arroyo here at these next 2 picks. An underdog, after taking Trey McBride, you're almost never taking two tight ends, but given the extra depth we have on DK, we can certainly do it. Okonkwo is going to give us the season-long stability for our tight end too, make us feel safe that even on that bye week with McBride, if McBride ever has 1 week out or really just somehow manages to put up a stinker, which I don't expect, we'll have Okonkwo. I think he'll be a fairly stable tight end too. Arroyo, on the other hand, is going to give us some end-of-season upside, especially now that we took Bryce Young at that former pick. We now get a little bit of a bring back in their 17 game, and just kind of rounds out that room in general. Again, on underdog, I'd never be taking 3 tight end after the ADP investment into Trey McBride, but we can get a little bit wonky here. We can do it. Next picks, end of this draft. I think because one, the value, two, the names that I have attached in this running back room, I feel fairly stable. Last 3 picks are all going to be wide receivers. Hopefully we can get some good values. One of them hopefully will be Wilson, further stack up into our major Arizona play with Kyler and his 2 main targets. Jalen Knoll, I'd really love. A. Minor would be great, considering we have the big-time Ward stacking now with Okonkwo and Calvin Ridley. Jalen Coker is fine. I really don't want to take ETN up here, but I will if I have to. Mainly just to get a little bit of spice in that Carolina backfield. I think he's sneaky to have a little bit of a receiving role. I honestly don't believe it's going to aim to be much in fantasy. There's a slight chance, maybe he just busts off a broken receiving play in 17 and hits you with some value, but there's a reason he's at 368. The public doesn't believe he's going to do much, and most of the time when the public is that staunch that a player isn't going to do much at all this year, they're usually right. While we wait for this next pick, one of the most interesting things to me, just in terms of ADP disparity, is the fact that Tyler Lockett just went. That's fine. I was kind of aiming for A. Minor anyway. We'll make these 2 picks, and then I'll explain myself. I think Coker's fine. I really don't think he's going to do a ton this year, but he might just do something. And we do need a little bit of an outlet for Bryce Young. So let's just further stack up on Tennessee and now into Carolina. The ADP differential between Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin, specifically Roman Wilson between underdog and DK. On my recent drafts on underdog, Roman Wilson is now even ahead of Calvin. I said Calvin Ridley? I meant Calvin Austin, my bad. Roman Wilson is even ahead of Calvin Austin on underdog. Yet on DK here, he's near 100 picks after him. Part of that is due to recent news that Roman Wilson is the likely 2. I think even if he is the 2, it's going to be a hard time unless either him or Austin get like a staunch definitive 2. Austin also, you would assume, would be the better pick in a half-point PPR than a point, full point PPR reception league, just for the fact that Calvin Austin scopes out to be a field stretcher. Roman Wilson, if anything, will be that more intermediate short route guy. He wasn't asked to do too much of anything, to be quite honest, at Michigan, given how little they threw the ball. But Roman Wilson does not scope out to be the field stretcher that Calvin Austin would be. He, you would assume, would get slightly higher target share if he does earn that 2 role over Austin, and Austin is just a field stretching 3. So even more reason for my consternation regarding his current rank on these DK drafts. But I do think that's one thing that, I even have to do better, is getting on DK just a little bit, just to let these differing ADPs work in my mind a little bit. I think you get so accustomed to how the draft always goes on underdog. That's one of my, honestly, the biggest thing I've learned doing this single DK draft today. It felt so much different than an underdog draft. And I do think that not only helps you put a new mind frame, a new perspective on some of the players when you get them at later ADPs, when you're forced to do different builds and seriously just kind of change the lens you're viewing a team under. I think that can really help, even if you don't believe, like, part of the reason a lot of people have been going to DK is because they think that it's softer. They think that, any Joe Schmo that's just betting on DraftKings might slip into a Bestball draft and get hosed. I don't think it's that serious or real. Even if the ADP happens to be slightly softer, you have to understand with that softer ADP comes a higher likelihood that your stacks get sniped, this, that, the other thing. Not to say that doesn't happen on underdog, but I wouldn't rush to DK thinking that it's so much softer. The reality is you're 1 man out of 12 in a draft in both of those. You only have so much control over the draft regardless of how soft the ADP is. But I do think it'll help you, seriously take new perspectives on some players, question underdogs ADP at times, like when you get some of these great disparities, I think it is a good opportunity to be like, why is this guy so high or so low on underdog? And it might give you someone to seriously target or avoid. So yeah, as we wait for this, is it final or final 2? I believe it's final 2. It's so strange. No, it's final 1. All right, I'm not too crazy. As we wait for this final pick, it'll be a wide receiver. More than anything, it'll likely be Roman Wilson since I've been talking about him so much. But I won't make you hold out to find that out. We can do a quick overview of this draft. We have a Kyler double. Worked out pretty well going back into a chase for 17, pretty healthy stack. Kamara, Pollard, Ridley, Ward, and Okonkwo for that game. Pacheco just for some value in the running back room. What scopes out to be a very good KC offense again this year. Mason, just a TD threat. Hopefully, not hopefully, I'm not hoping for Aaron Jones to get injured, but if Aaron Jones ever does get injured, Jordan Mason will be a very premium play in any one of those weeks. Darren Mooney, definitely better in half-point PPR on underdog, given that he is also kind of more of a field stretcher. He should be good to go past week 1, shouldn't have too many long-term issues with his injury. Luther Burden scopes out to maybe be a beneficiary of the Ben Johnson offense taking an Amon-Ra role. I find that to be less likely. I think it'll be DJ Moore, but the ceiling does come with him, especially in this lower entry fee. I'm happy to take him. Already talked about Cam Ward. Quinshon Judkins at 150. Now that he's not having any legal issues, you're going to want to more than buy into that. Got Bryce Young at an ADP value. Wandell, just a PPR merchant. And then Arroyo to bring back into that Carolina game. Abe Minor for a little bit further Tennessee stack, and Coker to justify Young. And then as we'll see here in a second, we will go Roman Wilson to close it out. I don't think there are any other receivers that offer the same upside that I think he does if he's able to win out that wide receiver 2 role in Pittsburgh, which admittedly is not a massive ceiling, but he can provide a little bit of weekly value here and there, I believe, with how efficient I think the Steelers offense will be next year. If only this guy would pick. There we go. All right, that's Roman Wilson. I'm out of here. Thank you for watching. I'll be back again tomorrow, likely back on Underdog. And until then, draft well, be safe. Peace!